As he introduced myself, Aloke Dutta, electrical engineering. I'm here for a long time. 28 years I've finished in this institute, and it has been a very rewarding experience. First, let me welcome you to this noble profession. It's a wonderful area. You have recently recruited in government engineering colleges, and you are embarking on a career on teaching, research, and education, which is a wonderful thing. You are the builder of our future generation, and I'm sure you will do very well, and wishing you all the best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
And I'm sure all of you will do very well. There's no doubt about that, because you have chosen to be in this profession by choice, and it's a very exciting career indeed. Okay, I was supposed to talk about microelectronics in IIT Kanpur, but I thought maybe first 5-10 minutes I'll be spending on how to become an effective teacher. I think because from my experience, I know a few things a good teacher must possess so that he can become an effective medium of instruction. So what the first slide I have is what are the traits a good teacher must have. This is my opinion. It may not be a absolutely comprehensive thing, but pretty good. These points, I'll just go briefly. Effective teacher, when you go to a classroom and interact with students, basically you are conveying what you know to them. You are several levels higher than them. So it is sometimes very difficult what you are trying to say to put it across, so that when you were students, you have seen that some faculty used to convey things very clearly and some faculty just could not. So it is an art. Teaching is an art. If you are gifted, if you are talented, and if you are given that talent of teaching well, you will do irrespective of this slide or not. You know, it's in your blood. But so for some of you, it is an acquired trait, and these are the features which I think a good teacher must have. The first one is establish rapport. I think that is very important, that you make yourself one of the class. It is very difficult to do, because your background is different, the student's background is different. Sometimes you will be encountering a small class, sometimes you will be encountering a big class, and teaching pedagogy will change depending on the students you have, the number of students you have, and their background they have. Based on that, you have to continuously tune yourself. The first thing is establishing a rapport with the students. I think this is very critical. The second one is be thorough in your subject. That is also obviously keep yourself up to date. We are in an area when you are in electronics or electrical, this is a very rapidly evolving area. Every day it is changing. It is good to keep yourself aware of what is happening around you by reading magazines, by reading journals, by doing self-study. Because when I came, I knew almost nothing, frankly, because I got a PhD and I joined here as a professor, as an assistant professor, and at that time when I was to go to class, I was to really shake. We was to get very frightened that how will I teach, because do I have enough background to answer all the queries? No, it actually initially lots of questions students had which I had no answer, because I did not know myself. It is not possible for one to know everything. The moment you think that you know everything, that is the end of education. Even at this stage of my life, 28 years of teaching in IIT Kanpur, I go to class and ask questions. I may not be able to answer all of them. Don't assume that I have answers of all your questions. That is not possible, because it is not that you know it all. Can never happen to any human being. So keep yourself very open, very up to date, and keep on reading up material. The more you read, the more knowledgeable you will become, and obviously it will follow through. Make the classroom environment exciting and entertaining. This is another very important point. It should not be a drudgery. A student which walks in your classroom and sits for 50 or 55 minutes should not feel bored. And sometimes this is like acting. I continuously say that when a teacher goes to a classroom and teaches for 50 or 55 minutes, he is actually enacting a play. Do you agree? It is just like a drama. You are it's like a soliloquy. It is like a monologue. You are the hero, heroine, villain, everything combined into one. And you are performing for 55 minutes and keeping the audience spellbound. It takes a lot of effort. You have to be thorough in your preparation. You have to be thorough in your eloquence. Communication skill is another point, that you have to be able to make your point across. That is not very easy. It comes day by day. You will see you will be improving. Somebody are gifted. On the very first day they teach fantastic, but not all. Some of them it is an acquired trait and it develops over the years. So initially if you get a bad teaching rating, doesn't matter, because you are in the process of learning and eventually you will see your teaching rating will just skyrocket. So, and engage students, that is very important. They should not feel bored, very difficult to do, very, very difficult to do. Because when you have a class, big class, particularly this semester I am teaching a class of 150 students, and keeping them engaged for 50 minutes is no mean task. I mean, it's very tough. It's very tough. We have been students, we know how bored, how quickly bored you used to get when something is not quite going to our liking. So, are you following my speed and accent and everything is all? Okay. Engage students through occasional anecdotes. I keep on telling them short stories of your life, which are very entertaining. Because you see, sometimes what happens, you put your foot in your mouth kind of a thing. That's, you do something very horribly embarrassing. You share with the students. This is called self-deprecating jokes. That is, the jokes which is actually putting yourself down. And students love it, believe me. Because when you can put yourself down in front of students, the students will shake up and say, my God, he is one of us. The moment you have superiority complex, hey, sit down, don't talk, that does not work, because it is not a school. It is an engineering institute. The people who are coming to that institute are highly qualified because they have cracked entrance exam. You know how tough it is. And day by day it is progressively becoming tougher. So the moment you think that I'm going to boss over them, that is the end of that classroom completely. You will be ruining that class completely. Put yourself down, self-deprecate yourself by giving, telling stories about your embarrassing moments. They'll love it. And then they will attach, the first one is establish rapport, that develops the rapport. They will start thinking that you are a friend. They can come to you with problems, they can come to you with, when they have any kind of professional or personal difficulty, they can reach you. That's approachability. Approachability goes up if you develop a rapport, engage students through occasional anecdotes and humor. Some of these humors are jokes, crack jokes with students. I mean, it does a plenty of good thing, believe me. I have seen that in a class which is getting very serious, because electronics is not child's play, right? Or electrical or electronics, for that matter, any subject is not child's play. So when you see that things are getting pretty serious, the things are becoming tedious, then occasionally lighten the mood by telling some jokes. What jokes? I don't know. You will figure it out. But it will come automatically. You will see, you will be making jokes, and that will immediately lighten the mood. There will be a role of laughter in class, and that kind of eases out the tension. When you practice, you will see what I am saying. Right now some of the things are very vague because you are just starting out your career, and I am hearing from YN that you are just fresh recruits. Are you? So you might not have taught any class yet, or maybe. Okay, encourage questions and active interaction. This is what teachers are afraid to do, because of the simple reason they think that if I encourage questions, I may not have the answer. And if I encourage interaction, then if they put me in a wrong position, how do I get out of it? So we are afraid to encourage questions in class. We say we will do it after the class. No, that is a very bad thing to do. It will come later, how to handle questions which you don't know the answer of. But encourage questions, make it interactive, and that way the learning becomes very, very good if you keep on interacting with students all the time, and that will give you a feedback also, that how well you are doing depending on the questions you are getting. You will see yourself. Right now lots of things may not make a lot of sense, I know, because you have not been through the fire as of now. But when you go through the fire, you will see that you will make it a hardened criminal. You will see that. Inspire and motivate, that is another thing. That the classroom teaching what you are doing, how practically relevant they are. Whether that has any merit, that has any relation to your practical day-to-day lives. For example, when I talk about low current measurement, just an example. When I talk about low current measurement, I give them an example of our body. Our body is source of electromotive potential. Our body itself, have you ever touched an oscilloscope probe and seen what you are getting in the oscilloscope? There are sine waves with typically 20 to 30 millivolt peak to peak. So our body is a source of EMF, and if you are doing a low current measurement, the noise from these tube lights, from any kind of electrical appliance, they emit electromagnetic radiation that can totally ruin your measurement. So when you are doing low current measurement, you have to take care of all the practical difficulty which you may face. These are practical examples. Or you are teaching a theory, then give an example of an equipment which uses that theory or principle in effect to make something tangible. If they see that relation, they will immediately get motivated. They say that what they are learning is a very, very practical thing. For example, when you are teaching transformers, for example, in power system course, talk them about distribution lines, talk them about the things they have in their room, what is the meaning of live neutral, and what is the meaning of neutral is we are not getting neutral. These are the common terminology electricians use. Neutral nahi mil raha hai. What does it mean? Neutral nahi mil raha hai. What is the problem? Why does it happen? Why is a star connection? Why is a delta connection? What are the differences between them? Are you electrical electronics or mixed? What is the proportion of electronics? Lower than electrical, is it? Okay, so anyway, so I should give more electrical examples. So inspire and motivate, that is also a thing which will make students sit up and notice that you are doing something very useful. Difficult to do, all this, following this is not a mean task. It takes years of development to become an effective teacher. Never hesitate to say, I don't know. This is a golden rule of teaching. The moment you start to say wrong answers, students will figure out, not at that moment, but eventually they will figure out what you said in the class is wrong. And the respect which you will lose because of that is immeasurable. That rapport I am talking about, that rapport will be ruined if you say something you are trying to cover up. You are not knowing the stuff, but giving wrong answers. No, don't, never, never, ever do that. If you are not sure about the answer to the question a student asks, pause for a moment and say, right now, I don't have the answer to that, but I am sure I am going to come with the answer to your question in the next class. Don't make it a routine though. If you keep on saying, I don't know to all the questions they are asking, that will not happen, I am pretty sure. But some of the things you can actually stand on the spot and think, because you already have a PhD degree. So you already have gone through all this rigmarole. So it is not that you will not know any of the answer, it is impossible. But there will be few, even now after 28 years, some of the times I get a question kind of shakes me up. I said, my God, I have never thought about it. I am telling you candidly, I don't know the answer. And that is why I tell in the first class that don't expect me to answer all the queries which you have. It is not humanly possible. And even obviously after teaching for 28 years, I know answer to most of the common queries. But even now, there are some questions occasionally come which perturb me. And I tell them, see, I told you that I don't know some of the answers. This is the question which I don't know the answer. But next class, I'll surely read up and come with the solution. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know. It actually, you think by saying, I don't know in a class, you are actually humiliating yourself. No, not at all. You are actually elevating yourself in the students' eyes. The students will say, my God, this guy has so much guts. He is not ashamed to say, I don't know. This is brilliant. Believe me. Believe me. It takes lots of guts to stand in front of a class and say, I don't know, to a batch of students. You can imagine doing that. So it takes a lot of effort, lot of guts, but don't be afraid to say that. But to make it effective, find the correct answer of that query and be sure to tell that answer to the class next day. Otherwise, if you keep on piling all these unanswered questions, it doesn't work. So that is another point. Be patient, kind and caring. That is very, very important. All of them are extremely important. Never bully students. You never wanted to get bullied by any teacher, did you? So don't bully any student. I mean, because sometimes we keep on shouting at students. Even we used to do that when we started, because at that time our threshold were very low. With age we mature, but you are just starting your career. So obviously you are very, very young and your threshold level of anger is quite low. So don't get angry so quickly and don't be unkind or impatient to students, because students after all are looking up to you. So try to put yourself in a higher pedestal as much as possible. If you can do that, wonderful things happen. Believe me. All these are from my practical experience. So I know I put a lot of heart in writing these points. Develop communication skills. It is not easy. Communication skills means I have seen fantastic person who knows the subject extremely well, cannot convey You know, when you go to their class, he's a brilliant researcher, he has published tons of papers, he has guided tons of PhD, MTech, whatever. But when he comes to a class, you cannot make out what the hell is going on. This is a very poor communication skill. And this communication skill, somebody are blessed by God, they already automatically have it, raw talent. They do not have to work hard on that. But some of us are not that gifted. Some of us cannot communicate well. Somebody can express a very complex thing in one sentence. Somebody, for the same complex thing, will take an hour and still not convey what he wants to say. It happens, you have seen that. All your teachers were not same, right? Some of them used to communicate very well, and some of them just could not communicate even a simple thing. It happened to me also when I was a student in Jadavpur University, where I got my BTech from in 1982. None of you are born at that time. So, so in 1982, when I was a teacher, 78 to 82, I was a BTech student in Jadavpur, Calcutta. And we had teachers who we used to look up to like God. And there were some teachers also, I am telling you candidly, we used to be afraid of going to those classes because I said, my God, what is going to happen? It's a total sheer waste, because not that that guy is bad or poor or anything like that. He cannot just communicate. So this communication skill, if you are gifted, you have nothing to worry about. If you are not, work on it. Work on it, practice how to make a situation. The best way to improve communication skill is to put yourself in students' shoes and see, if I am a student, how would I like that to be taught? Can you relate? That is, you are putting yourself in the student's shoes, that you are putting yourself in the audience, and see, if I am the student and I am trying to learn this stuff, how would I like to be taught? Teach in that way. Like start from basics and then develop the steps and go to deeper concepts. It works wonderfully well. Be a good listener. That is another very important thing. Good listener means they will keep on asking you questions, understand clearly what they are asking, and then listen to their problems, personal, professional, whatever problem they have. That is, be a mentor, be a guide, not only a teacher, so that the students can approach you anytime. One point I forgot to write it here, be approachable. That is another important point for a good teacher. Be approachable. Students should not be frightened of approaching you. The more you open up to the students, the more students treat you as a friendly person, they will come to you, and then you will develop that established rapport. The first comment. Everything goes back, because the student and teachers in a class must be in unison. Their wavelengths must match. And if wavelengths match, resonance. If don't match, destructive interference. So you have to pick up the first one. The interference must be constructive, so that you resonate. And they will love to look forward to going to your class, and you will also love to go to that class and teach them. That is rapport. Once it is a pain for you to go to that class, and for students also to come to that class, that course is completely ruined. Nothing is going to come. Outcome of that course is negative. Actually, they will have a very bad experience about that. And one way to make it effective is be a good listener. Be open to the problems. Nobody is there to put you down or humiliate you or put you in uncomfortable position. It's not that. Everybody is trying to help you out. You have to understand they are going to help you out, and be attentive, be a good listener, and look at their problems which they have and try to solve them to the best of your ability. Establish high expectations and standards. This is very critical for a course to be successful, because students are like, students are like elastic. The more you stretch, the bigger it will become. That is, you keep on raising your standards. So people say, after taking your course, this is the course where we came out of that course after 45 lectures or 42 lectures or 40 lectures, whatever number of lectures you have in your university, that we gained a significant amount of delta, we call it. Delta is value addition. If your expectation level is very low, that delta will be very, very poor, because students will refuse to learn, because they say, oh, there is no use of doing that, because this guy has absolutely no expectation from us. Then you say, am I going to over expect from the students? Maybe. Over expect from students, no harm in it, because be sure, be convinced that some of the students, however high your expectations are, some students are going to match that, believe me. Because some of the students are super brilliant, and whatever yardstick you make as high as you want, some students definitely going to reach there. Then you say, then I'll be losing majority of the class. No, don't do that. When you are pulling them up, the best ones up, don't push the other ones down. Try to pull the whole class together, so they rise collectively. That is the last point. Never humiliate or embarrass any student in front of others. This not only applies to teaching a course, but in professionals. You will have your colleagues with whom you differ in opinion, and you will have meetings. Meetings, you always fight issues, not the person. You will have tremendous respect if you can do that consistently. That don't fight A and B does not get along well. B says something A does not like, and A attacks B personally. Is hugely bad for the organization. Students, you guys are also about how much? 23, 24? No, little more than that maybe. Okay, maybe late 20s, early 30s, and the students will be roughly at the age of 17, 18. So you are a big brother or big sister to them. So what happens, and they are very tender, very tender, believe me. They are coming just from school. School, they have a completely different environment. And they are jumping into a university, which is a technical university. And they are staying in a hostel. Maybe some of them are first time out of their home. Some of you were. When you joined engineering, you left your home and went to hostels. Initial days, you remember, you used to cry? I used to cry. I'm not afraid to say that, ashamed to say that. I used to cry. I used to feel terribly homesick. And I said, no, I do not want to be here. I want to go back. But there was no looking back, because once you are embarked on that line only goes forward, no backtrack, no. These students are very tender, and if you put them down in front of class, you are doing immense harm to them, because you are trampling on their self-esteem. And once a person loses his self-esteem, he can never recover, because at the back of his mind, he will continuously think, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm good for nothing. This is negative thought, and this negative thought is going to kill that person professionally. Not only professionally, personally, and it will incite suicidal tendency. If I'm no good, then why am I living? And that happens. I own counseling service in IIT Kanpur for 10 years, student counselor. And I have seen so many cases where the students come in front of counselor, cry and say, students, the professors put me down in front of class, I get devastated. That time maybe initially I used to put students down because I thought that will fire them up. No, it really doesn't work that way. If you really want to chew a person up and show him his right position, call him to your room, lock the door and bash him up. That time witness is only you and the student. They take it very constructively. Do you see the difference? Yes. One is putting down in front of others, his friends, his peers. You are putting the student down in front of his elites. And the other one, you are doing it in a closed room. If you think the student is not fulfilling your expectation, you have every right to chew him up. But don't do it in front of a crowd, in front of a class. Call him to your room, lock the door, and then do whatever you want. It will do immense good. Then the student will also feel that he is doing it for my good, and also he respects my self-esteem because he is doing it in person and he is not doing it in front of class. Is it going all right? Yes. So these are practical things, because you will every day, I am telling you that all the problems I have stated, you will find each of them replicating. Some of you may be remembering even some of these points I made. Maybe these points have already been made, has it? But when I get students' feedback, most of the students write that he is too passionate about what he does. So even in this lecture, I am trying to be passionate so that you are with me. Because if I am coming here with a poker face and I am keeping on churning lecture, some of you will start to snooze off, some of you will start to yawn, and somebody just collapse, deep asleep. Unless you put passion in what you are doing, you will not be taking the audience with you. No way. This is what is resonance. You are starting to think the way I do. And you think, no, this guy is saying something which is not that bad. Some of them are actually interesting. So it stirs you up and make you sit upright and listen. This is one interaction. encouraging questions. I have not encouraged any question from you, but definitely I will. Last 5 minutes I will be open to questions because I have a little bit more time to. I will just quickly go through the pedagogy of electronics thing. But I think those things will change from university to university. But I will give you the course content, I will give you the syllabus, I will give you the outcome, what is the desired outcome, and what are the course pedagogy we have in IIT Kanpur. So these are some of the bullet points of how to become an effective teacher. Some of them may work, some of them may not, but I think most of them should work for you if you follow them. And after 10-15 years, you will personally see what a beautiful change has evolved. Microelectronics stream at IIT Kanpur, we have 3 undergraduate courses, E210, that's what I teach, 311 also I teach, 370, all of them I teach, but in different semesters. This time I am teaching E210, which is a microelectronics core, and it is basically on analog circuit. This is another topic which people are very, very afraid of. I have seen when students come from MTech interview or PhD interview from other university engineering colleges, they know digital electronics very well, microprocessor very well, but analog circuit and devices, not very good. And they say in our university, we do not have a curriculum which covers analog circuit and semiconductor devices, but I think microelectronics have 4 pillars, we call 4 pillars on which it is standing. Number 1 is device, number 2 is analog circuit, number 3 is digital circuit, number 4 microelectronics is standing on 4 pillars: device, analog circuit, digital circuit, and it's louder. Microprocessor is a combination of analog, digital interface and all these things. Technology, fabrication, how do you make it? These are the 4 pillars: device, analog, digital, and fabrication. Fabrication course in UG curriculum we do not have. Fabrication is pushed back to postgraduate elective courses, but UG students can take that. UG students can take that as an elective. Out of this, we have made E210 and E370 compulsory, that is analog and digital compulsory, while 311, which is semiconductor devices, we have made optional. The reason is we have only one department, electrical, where we cater to all the streams. We do not have so many free slots, unfortunately. Otherwise, semiconductor device to me is a must course. But in IIT Kanpur, we have an elective, though majority of the students take that as an elective. So this is the curriculum. And 210 expected outcome is students should become thoroughly proficient in analyzing analog circuit using prudent assumption, approximation, and employing various rules of thumb and or heuristic approaches, as well as embark on designing new circuits having better performance. That is the pedagogy. After taking E210, we want the students should have fairly good knowledge of how to analyze an analog circuit and do rudimentary designs of complex circuit, and as he starts doing more and more designs, obviously is going to become better and better, and eventually he will be able to design much more complicated circuits. That is the outcome. That is possible outcome we are looking for. This is E210. Course content, we start from IV characteristic and large and small signal models of diode, BJT and MOSFET, followed by biasing. These terms I am just outline. I could have gone to detail, but there is no use of that. Biasing, amplifiers, output stage, frequency response, feedback, stability compensation, op-amp. I am right now in the first quadrant, that is the first topic I am right now in E210, already 9 lectures are over. Because since they do not have any device background, I have to teach them device, I have to teach them IV characteristic, then I have to develop small signal model, and then I have to go through all these things. Biasing is how to operate Q point, amplifiers, how to amplify signals, voltage, power, current, output stage, how to drive loads, frequency response, lower cutoff, upper cutoff, these are frequency response, feedback, series, shunt series, all these things we have done in your UG days. Stability compensation, how do I prevent oscillation, or how do I design oscillators? Either way, if an analog circuit has to be stable, it should not oscillate, but I may need to design an oscillator. So my design pedagogy is opposite of each other. How to make a circuit oscillate and how to make a circuit not to oscillate. So this is stability and compensation, and eventually all analog circuit culminate to a wonderful piece of circuit which is op-amp, we call it, and everything. I think UG curriculum in most of the colleges are based on op-amp. They are very good in solving op-amp circuits, inverting amplifier, non-inverting amplifier, etc. But what is inside the op-amp, they do not know. That is what 210 talks about. So that is my analog circuit course. 311 also I teach. This is on semiconductor devices, but as I said, it's an elective course. And this elective course, but majority of the UG students of IIT Kanpur take that course. Outcome expected is students should become thoroughly conversant with basic semiconductor physics. It is a difficult course, much more difficult course, because we talk about Poisson's equation, Gauss law, whatnot, then p-n junction diode, from that NPN, PNP, BJT, then going to MOS capacitor, then going to MOSFET, lots of things, very, very heavy syllabus, 311. Actually, ideally it should have been split into two, but as I said, we don't have that many slots available to us, because we are a combined electrical and electronics department. I don't have those many free slots. So we are clubbing, everything, and every time review comes, very heavy syllabus course. Yes, it is, because as a teacher we know it is a very heavy syllabus course, but we try to do justice as much as we can. Students should become thoroughly conversant with basic semiconductor physics related to semiconductor devices and obtain a sound understanding of the operating principles and current voltage characteristics of important devices like diodes, BJTs. BJT is bipolar junction transistor, NPN, PNP, etc. MOSFETs can be N channel or P channel, and along with their major applications. What are the major applications we have of these devices? Not in great detail, but at least the student should have a fairly good idea about what are the major application of diodes, BJTs and MOSFETs. Some applications which you already know about, you can improve upon them also later on. The course content starts with semiconductor definition and crystal structure, then basic physics, then excess carriers and transport process, drift, diffusion, etc. Then we go to junction diode, followed by bipolar junction transistor, BJT, then cap it up with MOS capacitor, then MOS capacitor, then MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, and then give examples of some important devices like tunnel diode, varactor diode, light emitting diode, photodetector, and the last one is not the least one, solar cell, which is a very, very hot area. Indian government is spending so much money on solar enclave, and solar research is heavy research nowadays. If you want to get quick funding, jump into solar bandwagon. I mean immediate funding, because I think in university you have to initiate some research projects, get some funds from organizations. Solar area is a good area to get funds from, because Solar Engineering Research Center, ACRC, have lot of money, and they are actually asking for good projects which they can fund. So if you have a good idea about some solar things, for that you have to do a little bit of reading, but then if some idea pops up in your mind, if you know too much, it is a problem. If you know too little, it is a problem. If you know medium, good researcher. Because if you don't know anything, you don't know what to do. If you know too much, you are too worried about the failure of the approach. If you are not sure, if you are neither of these two, middle, not a very good understanding, not a very bad understanding, then you are risk taker, and you become very successful researcher. You will understand that later, not now. Okay, textbook and references. When I have wrote a book published by OUP, Oxford University Press, in 2008, Semiconductor Devices and Circuits. When I teach 210 and 311, should I refer to any other book than mine? Nah, doesn't make sense. So that is my text. That is a 2008 publication, and I tell students also the same thing which I told you. Since I am teaching the course, I have every right to put my book as text. Yes, that's what I do. And references are the 4 classic books on analog circuit. The first one is Gray, Hurst, Lewis, Mayer. Some of these names you may be knowing already. The second one is Gregory and Thames. That's where I learned this is a very old book, 1986, where I learned from my MOS circuits from. Cedra Smith, I think everybody knows. I think you followed Cedra Smith. And this microelectronics circuit, every year almost one edition comes out. Extremely popular book in India, though at a very, very shallow level. But still, that's what Indians do most of the time in teaching. They keep it very superficial. Let it, yeah. So 5th edition, 2004. Then Millman and Grable, that is another classic textbook. Microelectronics, these are all old books. Because analog circuit, the basic pedagogy of analog circuits have remained the same over the years. And for 311, which is devices, the first is another classic, Streetman Banerjee. You must have heard of it. Streetman Banerjee, I learned my electronics from that. I have some emotional attachment with that book. Streetman wrote and told me, your book can never surpass that. I said, that was not my point. Obviously, my book won't be able to surpass your book. I'm in writing terms with Streetman. Sometime occasionally we exchange emails. He said, glad to know that you have published a book, but that book is never going to compete with our ha ha ha, He is such a ruthless fellow. Device electronics for integrated circuits, Muller and Kamins. He's a very old person now, but he still has a great sense of humor. That is what keeps us ticking, by the way, makes audience laugh as much as possible. Device electronics for integrated circuits, Muller and Kamins. This is another classic book. Then M.S. Tyagi, I'm very fortunate to be one of his colleagues. So when I joined in IIT Kanpur in 1990, that time M.S. Tyagi was my next door neighbor in office. My office and his office just shared a common boundary wall. So we used to keep on interacting. And his book, I did proofreading. So I am very proud of saying that this book, Introduction to Materials and Devices by M.S. Tyagi, is a very hot book. And though he has covered too many things, so it is slightly shallow, but nevertheless it's a very good reference and textbook depending on how you would like to use it, to have it in your library. And of course, some of you want to probe much deeper than the basic shallow stuff, and for them Michael Schur. Michael Schur is a very renowned fellow in microelectronics, and he has wrote a book, Physics of Devices, in 1990, which is still Bible. Another book which I have not written is SMZ. You must have heard of that. Yes. SMZ, solid state devices. So SMZ's book is actually not a book. You may not be knowing that. SMZ's book is actually a conglomeration of research papers. It is not a textbook. SMZ's book is basically for researchers. But these are all textbooks. You can actually learn stuff from here. But once you have learned it, you can go back and refer to Z. I'm sorry. You can refer to Z. So I do Z here because that is not a good reference book. That is for very advanced people who already know a lot of basics. They can brush up their funders or advance their funders by using SMZ's book. So these are the references and textbook and pedagogy of 210 and 311, and thank you very much for spending half an hour with me. It was entertaining for me. I think it was good for you too, and wishing you all the best in your future endeavors. Any queries you have, any questions you have, I'll be glad to answer. I would have loved to come to dinner today, but I already had a prior dinner invitation since a long time back, and I possibly cannot cancel that. But my room number is Western Lab 126. You can write it down, Western Lab 126. If you at all get any free time and want to discuss anything personal or professional with me, feel free to drop by. Western Lab 126. Once you go to academic area, you can ask anybody where is Western Lab, and then after you reach Western Lab, just ask where is Aloke Dutta's office. Most of the people there know where I sit, so they will guide you to my room. Thank you very much.